Okay, 3D normal maps, yay! So I already explained the concept of normal maps, right? Normal maps is something that looks like this, and if you apply that to your object, it will just have a very detailed look without having to, run all that mesh data. So Alexis had the generosity of sharing me with one of the model that he's working on. So let's just open an empty Unity project. So my empty Unity project isn't that empty, but it's okay. Sometimes you have a really complicated model, like this one Alexis have, right? And for example, he has all these bricks on the model, and if you go to wireframe, you see there's a tons of polygons and frames because of these bricks. If you get rid of these bricks, it's actually a very simple shape, right? Like a very basic geometry shape with these very beautiful details. So it would be great if we can have these details, visualize them without having to compromise the performance. And that's why it's very, very important to bake your normal maps, especially when it comes to video game. If you're doing animation, that's another story because you can take your sweet time rendering. But in real-time video gaming, you definitely want things to be as optimized as possible. I already made some changes to this mesh. So I'm gonna download the mesh that Alexis gave me from Slack. So I'm gonna open up his mesh. It looks something like this, right? Very pretty and very nicely designed, very detailed model, I would say. Very, very beautiful. But what we're gonna do is that we're gonna try to optimize this, try our best to optimize it. And I'm gonna start with this one wall and then just hide everything else because it would be a lot of work to do all of those all at once. This one wall is the perfect example for baking normal maps. And just before I start, this is a good practice in baking normal maps. I'm gonna duplicate my mesh and then rename them. I'm gonna call it wall low detail and gonna call this wall high detail. So the way normal maps work is that I'm gonna have a low detailed mesh, and on the low detailed mesh, I'm gonna have it to be as simple as possible. So I'm gonna delete all these bricks. And then, I'm not sure this is the best way to delete it, but I'm gonna snap it front and then just delete all these cubes because I'm gonna bake them from the high detail mesh. So the low detail mesh is the mesh that you're actually gonna use in Unity or whatever. How do I delete this? So I select all of these and then I deselect this and deselect this and then delete everything else. Okay, so I'm gonna have it to be something like this, right? This is like 200 vertices, and over here we have the high detailed, and let's say, oops, what? Okay, high detail. Did I delete the wrong one? Okay, no, I didn't. Okay, so if you enter the high detailed, it's like 900 vertices. It's not that bad, but definitely it's worth saving all the spaces, 3D spaces. So over here, the low detailed one and the high detailed one, you can't really see the high detail. Oh, okay, because the details on this side. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna bake this into the normal map. And one thing that we really need to take into account is that when we bake these details, it's not good if they are like perfectly squared, because when you bake a perfectly squared normal map, the normal how do I say it? Let's say if we look at all these details, right? There's always like a shading going on. So if you bake these, which I've tried yesterday, actually nothing would come up on the map. So what I did I can demo how to bake the normal map first and then demo how to fix it later. So the way to do it is that you need to go to your low detail. It's already unwrapped, but if you don't have an unwrapped UV, you definitely need to unwrap it. And then over here in textures, click add new, my normal. And then a black texture will show up. And then because you need the normal map to be baked onto a texture, you know, if you don't have this texture, it wouldn't be able to bake. And then over here, you need to select the, select the high detailed first, and then hold on shift while you select the low detailed. And then over here under this camera icon, go all the way down to bake mode, full render, change that to normals, and then select to active, and then click bake. And then you see nothing would happen because the problem I was explaining about. The normal app did successfully bake, but the details wouldn't show up because of these cubes. It also could be because these cubes are too like out, because if the cubes are more like inwards, like if they're more this way, maybe that would bake better. But let's try it. So I'm gonna select this, click on my normal, and then select to active, change the margin to like max, bake it again, still nothing. So when I realized what was the problem, I think it's because the cubes are too cubic-ish. What I did is that because we don't want this part to be baked, so I'm gonna delete all these unnecessary vertices that we need from the high detailed mesh. So now if I hide my low detailed, all my high detailed is nothing but these cubes, right? Gonna delete this because we don't need to bake this either. So these are everything that I need to bake. And I'm gonna go over and subdivide it so that to give it a nice curvature. And you'll notice the moment you turn on subdivision surface, it becomes these little spheres. And I'm sure this is not what you want. What you can do is that you can go over one by one and make it, you know, but that will take you forever because there are so many of these cubes. So I found out an easier way to do it is that you go over subdivision surface. Instead of this Cadmon Clark, you select simple. And then it was subdivided, but also without changing the look of the shape. So I'm gonna change the subdivision to like maybe 3, maybe 2, 3. I can't decide. Okay, 3. And then apply. Can't apply in edit mode. Apply. Then I'm gonna go over to subdivision surface again, and this time, instead of a simple, I select the Colmac, and then you see all these cubes. They look very, very nice. So the way to do it is that you apply subdivision with simple mode first, and then after that you apply subdivision again, and you'll get this really nice sleek look instead of the complete sphere. So now I can enter this. Doesn't matter if I have many polygons because these all would be baked into my mesh. Go over here, select smooth, and then now they're all smoothed, right? Apply it. And then now this is my high detailed and this is my low detailed. Select it. So I'm gonna select my high detail, hold on shift and select my low detail. Go to my camera over here. And then notice when you bake right now, it will already show up. Ignore these part because I don't think our UV is actually covering this part. Also, I had the margin to 64 before. Change it back to 416. Bake again. Is it baking? Okay. Did it bake? I guess it's the same thing. So now I have this beautiful normal exported image, save as image. Go to my desktop, save as my normal, save as image. Save this blend file. Let's drag it into Unity and see how it looks. Okay. So delete this. I'm gonna drag my normal here. And then I'm also gonna drag the Bebook Castle for class. Okay. This one. Let me make sure, yeah, this is the one that we just baked. So technically, I can just delete these because I already baked my map and I want, you know, my computer to have an easier time importing, exporting. But if you're unsure of your normal map, don't delete it, because you will regret it later, maybe if you want to change something. So I drag it in. You see this already have the normal map attached to it, but not on the normal map channel. So I'm gonna select, you see this is I deleted my high detail, so only low detail is here. Create a new material. And then over here in the normal channel, we're gonna put in my normal map, fix it. And then now it looks, you know, like it has details, right? I'm gonna change the albedo so that it's, no. Now, like, if you look far away, you can't really tell, right, between this and this. I mean, here the texture is more protruded, but over there you can't really tell that there are non-cubes. They look exactly like they could be there, right? So yep, Alexis, all you gotta do is you gotta go to these and then bake them. I know, but it will be some good. Let me think if there's an easier way to do this. Yeah, I think you definitely need to go into this mesh and then select them. Yep. Like, so, I have no idea how you're gonna select these cubes. I think what you can do is that you can select the wall. So in Blender, you can click this and then press L. Oops, not what I wanted to select. So what I would do is that I will select this thing, separate it, so, and then select these pillars, make them into a separate object. So separate everything that oops, I just separated a vertex. Separate everything that you don't need to be baked. Press L to select the whole mesh, and then P for selection. And then this two, hold on Control, and then drag on left click to drag this whole thing out. And then P selection. Basically everything else is being separated, and I'm gonna turn all of them off. Only leave me with this mesh that I'm trying to work on. P selection. And now I have close to what I wanted. You also need to select these. Right, I'm assuming you're not baking any. Whoa. Okay, a lot of details here, but do you want to bake this as the normal map too? This as a texture, or you want the shape to stay there? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I figured, because normal map, you can't really have it actually be protruded. You can only see it as a texture. That's why going to Unity back. You see over here, all of these looks good, but over here, you see here it kind of looks weird, because here you actually had, like, you know, those cubes that are out. That's the part where normal maps kind of doesn't do, but over here on the side it kind of looks fine, right? But I would say if you're at the quick prototyping phase, definitely I wouldn't recommend you spend that much time tweaking on the detail, because you want to get more done. You want to make more models and more scenes and stuff. But when you later get to the tweaking detail part, you know, it's good. Okay. And then, of course, these need to be separated. And do this while you listen to some music, and you'll just get over it. And now I can start baking. Okay, so now, of course, I have my castle again, castle to bake, low detail, and then again, duplicate it, call it high detail. Very important for you to name them correctly, because if they have a very confusing name, then later you'll just confuse yourself even more. So go over the low detail one, and I'm gonna select my wall. Press L to select all of my wall. because these are the walls that I want to bake on. It's not working. God damn it. Okay. So now I have my wall selected. I'm gonna press Ctrl I to invert select everything. So just it will just invert select everything that was selected, and then I press X, delete all the vertices. Now this is my low detail, right? If you want to go hard on it, I mean, these don't even need to be there, but I'm not gonna go over it and delete it right now. It doesn't really matter. It's like just a little bit like 10 something meshes. Now I have my low detailed. It's already baked. The texture is already baked. I would say because these walls are pretty big, right? And if the texture is baked in a tiny place, the normal map would not have that much of a definition. So if you want, you can select, after you select the low detail, you can smart UV object it again so that they look, bigger. And then when you apply the normal maps on it, it will look more detailed. And then my high detailed, I'm gonna do the same thing because when I subdivide it, I don't want it to have my wall subdivided too. I only want my bricks to be subdivided, right? So select these and I deleted all the vertices. And now if I hide my low detail, my high detail look like something like this. And this is like 4,000 vertices already. And if I subdivide it, gonna do 2 this time. Apply, whoops, simple, apply, and then subdivide it again. Now it looks like more cartoony. Okay. Smooth it, then right. Now if you go over it, it has like 60,000 polygons. My computer is already laggy. Go to your low detail. So you select the high detail again, and then hold on shift, select on low detail. Go to your camera over here, create a new texture, normal 2, my normal 2. You can change the texture resolution to get a more detailed look, but I'm gonna leave it at 1024. And then normals, select to active, bake. Is it actually baking? Why is it stuck at 0%? No. Okay. Sometimes that no object or image is found to bake to. So you need to go into the edit mode of your low poly, and then over here change it to my normal 2, and then get out of it, and then select the high detail, then low detail, then bake again. Feel like that was the problem, or was it? Yes. Now it bakes, and now if you image, save as image, my normal 2, save it into empty project, empty Unity project. Okay, so this is my Unity project to begin with. And now I'm gonna also delete this because well, I'll save it because just in case if we want to make some changes later. But it will just take a long time to re-import the project. Turn off the high detail, and then over here where it says low detail, we create another material. We're gonna copy paste this material, put it on. I'm sorry it's yellow, it's just it's only yellow for now. Put on my normal 2 to normal map. Fix now. Okay, so now I'm gonna change this to white, a little bit like this. Okay, now if you turn on the high volume, it almost look the same, right? But one is a lot more optimized than the other. But having it like this, you can see some of the pixels here because I used 1024 by 1024, and you can even use a 4K texture and it will still be like faster than you having all these actual meshes. And now you have the normals. Okay, and now if you go over to your shaded wireframe, see it's a lot more simple. I think you can go over here to your stats, and you see now you have like 34 triangles, 34K triangles. But if I turn it on, it's like 900k triangles, almost like 1,000, almost a million triangles. It's definitely worth baking normal maps for any of your game project. Okay, so that's about it for baking normal maps. I mean, also you can, if you really want to, this would be really helpful, is besides normal maps, you can also try to bake ambient occlusion. So I'm gonna start my AO. Ambient occlusion is basically a fake shadow. In a lot of like video games, especially like, say for example, which one should I find? Skyrim. Is this how I spell it? No. Let's say this village. Over here, all these shadows, right? This shadow under the wood, it's definitely not real-time calculated because this shadow is not gonna move. Whenever you're there, this shadow is always gonna be, you know, like this. It's not like when the sun moves, all the shadow is moving, because real-time lighting calculating, that's the most, you know, GPU consuming thing you can do. That's why a lot of these video games, let's say this guy's shadow on his arm, that's definitely baked. You know, you don't expect Unity engine or whatever this engine is to real-time calculate your shadow on your arm for you, right? And that's why besides normal maps, we can also bake what's called ambient occlusion, and that's gonna be the shadows or fake shadows that you're gonna make. I'm gonna go to my low detail here, change it to my AO, and then click high detail, click on low detail again. Over here, bake mode, ambient occlusion, select to active, and then bake. See? Now these shadowy things starts to show up. Now if you save as an image, my AO, over here, go to my castle, and go to my material where it says occlusion. I'm gonna put my AO into the occlusion channel, and boom. See, now your castle kind of looks more realistic with these shadows, especially under these things. Well, I think these shadows are real shadow. I'm not sure. No, these things, the shadow here. Oh yeah, definitely real shadows, because I didn't have this bridge when I was baking the ambient occlusion. I don't know if I made sense. See, right now, if I had these things here, while I'm baking ambient occlusion, these shadows will just be baked onto here. It's also very important about your where you put your lighting in Blender, because right now I have my lamp. Where is my lamp even? Oh my god. Oh, okay, it's disabled. But the position you put your lamp at is also gonna affect the direction of your normal maps. So just be aware of it. I can't really select my lamp. Oh, okay. If you change the lighting direction in your Blender, it's all gonna be different. Okay. But yeah, you can bake ambient occlusion, you can bake normal maps, and then you can also just bake a bunch of other stuff, like specular, that's for making really shiny stuff. Emission, that's for if you want some of the part to be like emitting lights. Let's say if you want to, there's a room in the castle where there are lights coming out, definitely need to bake some emission. But you don't have to bake it, you can use a separate object as the emission channel. And you can bake shadow, you can bake full render. Basically you can paint the color and then bake the full render on it. But what I think is that if you have like other textures, I think the ambient occlusion and the normal maps is enough for, you know, just for the first step. Later on, if you wanna make it even more polished, you can, when you're baking, you can create a plane. It's so laggy. Plane. And when you create a plane here, and then when you're baking ambient occlusion, I would think that like there will be little shadows over here at the bottom. Let me see, ambient occlusion. Let me find some examples. Let's say right here, this one. At every seam in the bottom, there will be like shadow going up, and there will be like shadow going this way. So if you want that really nice look, you definitely need to, bake it. Unity also I think you can also bake ambient occlusion in Unity, but do you know how to bake ambient occlusion in Unity? I've never tried it. Have you tried it?
No.
Okay. But if you want to try it, I'm sure you can find tutorials that teach you how to bake it in Unity. I just bake it in Blender just for convenience. Okay?